And good evening and welcome to another edition of the Big High School Sports Show on Bull Falls Radio, 98.9 and 1230. Online at bullfallsradio.com. Mobile devices and Alexa by searching WXCO and on the Civic Media app. With former Wausau West High School head football coach Jason Foster, I'm Chad Holmes. Coming up on the program, we'll recap what happened last week, week number 4 of the high school football season. Look ahead to week number 5 as well later on, plus a pair of special guests. Coming up at 6:20, the head football coach of DC Everest, Tim Strehlow. Evergreen's 4-0 on the season, heading into a major Valley Football Association matchup against Stevens Point on Friday night. And then at 7:05, our student-athlete guest for this week from Wausau West, outstanding wide receiver and defensive back. In fact, has 4 interceptions already this season, including 2 last week. Carter Amerson, he'll be our guest coming up at 7:05. So Tim Strehlow at 6:20, Carter Amerson at 7:05, our special guest tonight here on the Big High School Sports Show. And hard to believe, but when we get to halftime on Friday night, it will be halfway through the season.
Yeah, things are changing. Yeah, it's great. I mean, the games seem to be getting better. The conference races are starting to come into picture a little bit, and it's getting darker earlier. Feels like football a little earlier in the evening.
I think you're exactly right on that respect. We're going to start getting some fall-like weather, I think, sooner rather than later. Maybe not this week, but very, very soon. Let's talk about last week's action, starting with the Valley Football Association. Both of us were at Tom Field, along with a lot of other folks on Friday night of last week. In fact, nearly 3,000 folks were packing Tom Field for the final log game between Wausau West and Wausau East. In the end, the Warriors stay undefeated, defeating the Lumberjacks 49-14. Wausau West now 4-0 overall, 2-0 in the VFA. East is 1-3 overall, 0-2 in the league. Ray Reinick, first time he touched the ball, went 56 yards for a touchdown, 16 carries, 273 yards, 4 touchdowns. The Warriors had 436 rushing yards as a team. Caden Worth, a big play threat for Wausau East, ran a kickoff back, 95 yards for a touchdown for the Lumberjacks. But in the end, just too much for Wausau West. And the thing about that game, I think it's not surprising the Lumberjacks had a hard time slowing down the Warriors' offense. Wausau East was able to move the ball from time to time. In fact, after the initial Wausau West score, the Lumberjacks drove it into the red zone. But I think the difference was that Wausau West was able to score on their big plays, and Wausau East wasn't. But it did still feel like a different Wausau East team. They fought, they battled. Wausau West played very well. Great atmosphere. Just, again, I thought it was a great night at Tom Field. And things for East to build on as well as Wausau West. Their goals are to win all these games and try to win another conference championship. For Wausau East, the rebuilding project, I thought, again, even though they lost, I don't think they had anything to be overly disappointed about.
No, I thought that's a good description of the game. I thought Wausau West did Wausau West-like things. They ran the football. In games like that, they continue to work on their passing game, as Carter will talk about when he's in later. And Jack had a nice run for a touchdown in the second half. But I think ultimately the game like that comes down to West doing what they should do in that game. And that games like that are won or lost at the line of scrimmage. And right now West is just better there and has more depth. And like you said, East kind of the pieces of the puzzle are there. It's just hard to get the consistency when you don't have the depth and maybe some of the experience that some of these other teams have. Should be a really good matchup for them this week against Appleton West. We'll talk about that later.
Yep, and DC Everest, like Wausau West, 2-0 in the conference, 4-0 overall. They edged Marshfield in a thriller at Steam Stadium last Friday night, 17-14. Tough loss for Marshfield, who are now 1-3 overall, 1-1 in the conference. Evergreens had a 14-0 lead after 3 quarters, but then the Tigers scored twice early in the fourth, tied it up at 14, but then Everest won it on a 20-yard field goal by Gabe Golbach in the final moments of the game. Logan George, big passing numbers for DC Everest. He was 21 of 33, 320 yards, a couple of touchdowns, a pair of picks. Pearson McDonald, 7 catches, 142 yards as well, and a touchdown for DCE. Evergreens did not run the ball well, though. That's something to keep an eye on. 27 rushes, 51 yards as a team, as the Marshfield defense, good up front. Jaden Zesh. I got to get that pronunciation correct. I got to find out about that, but 12 tackles as well. Adam Gilbertson, 7 of 15, 156 yards, couple of touchdowns for Marshfield. Brooks Hinson, great athlete. We see him on the basketball court during the winter. He had 5 receptions for 112 yards and a touchdown for Marshfield, but in the end, the Evergreens able to do the job, win for a 4th straight week, and a real critical game early on in the conference. Obviously, it's still very early, but 2-0 for Everest, 1-1 for Marshfield in the league.
Yeah, this game definitely seemed to have that old Wisconsin Valley Conference rivalry feel to it between these two, and as a game we kind of had circled and talked about last week as a big one in determining what the VFA is going to look like moving forward, and it's a tight game. I think Everest, it's a great win for you when you are up and then they come back and tie it and you find a way to finish the game. That's a big win and one you can use and build on as you move forward. And I think Marshfield is definitely in that role of definitely a playoff hunt as well as spoiler in this conference. And there's most certainly nobody's going to take the Tigers for granted when they play them. And
when you're fighting for that playoff spot, and I think everybody really is fighting for that playoff spot, you can't assume anything at this point. Those close games, boy, it is a big difference right now to have that second win for DC Everest and Marshfield still with 1 in the conference.
Yeah, winning high school football games, winning any football game is hard. There's a ton of things that go into it. Obviously, winning on a last-second field goal and the special team, the time you spend on special teams work during the week is huge. And Everest nudged them out and got a great win. And I think the other thing you take away from this with Marshfield is Marshfield plays really good defense. They are hard, historically, they are hard to game plan for. They move a lot of bodies around, a lot of stunts, a lot of blitzes. And I'm interested to hear from Coach Strehlow what that looked like last week.
And also, I think DC Everest playing some really good defense. Did not give up much against Chippewa Falls at Steam a couple of weeks ago. The other 2 games I think were expected to win, but those 2 games I think in the first 4 that, hey, we're going to see a little bit what they are defensively, both against Chippewa Falls and Marshfield. DC Everest looking good. And, of course, I think many times over the years when Everest is really good, it does start with the defense and also just, playing fundamental football. And that's been an Everest trademark for many years.
Yeah, and 4-0, this is, I would imagine, when you go through an off season and you look at your schedule and where you want to be halfway through, 4-0 sitting at the top of the conference, even though it's not alone. I think Coach Strehlow will say that's exactly where they want to be right now.
They don't put words in his mouth. They can let him talk about it himself in a few minutes, coming up in about 10 minutes or so. Stevens Point, 3 wins in a row for Spash. They're now 3-1 overall, 2-0 in the conference. They won the Old River Jug over Wisconsin Rapids, 41-9. Rapids, it's been a rough go of it. You talk about being 4-0. Rapids, the other end of the scale right now. They are 0-4 overall, 0-2 in the conference. Rapids actually led late in the second quarter at Gerke. 2:16 left in the second quarter. It was 9-7 Rapids. But after that, all Stevens Point, 34-0 Spash the rest of the game. Grant Chardonnay was 13 of 15. Boy, the percentage completions has been outstanding for him and for Stevens Point so far this season. 13 of 15, 228 yards, a couple of touchdowns. Amon Konopaki had 6 receptions, 91 yards in a score. Braylon Smola, who had the huge game the week before over at Hortonville, not used it much, but still effective. 11 rushes, 53 yards and a touchdown. Nick Roska, 13 tackles for Stevens Point. For Wisconsin Rapids, Cohen Lehman had 14 carries, 64 yards. Caden Sager, 16 rushes, 63 yards, and the lone touchdown for Wisconsin Rapids. But Stevens Point, I think going into the season, there were major questions about Stevens Point. They had such a rough go of it a season ago. Some of these players were part of that team that won just twice a year ago. But after that first game, again, against McQuantico, was it right?
Yep.
McQuantico in week number 1, that win against Hudson really kind of sparked them, and again beat a pretty good Hortonville team on the road, and then a rivalry game. You never know these rivalry games, and able to really turn it up a notch in the second half against Wisconsin Rapids. We talked about it. It looks like this Stevens Point team keeps on building.
Yeah, I would say first off, you're getting really good with those Spash name pronunciations. Well, that's impressive.
I just hold on and hope.
But this game kind of had everything you'd expect. I think where Wisconsin Rapids is right now, and it being a rivalry game, it being 9-7, through most of the first half, not a surprise at all. And then the final score, also not a surprise at all. That Spash is definitely the better football team right now, or at least appears to be, having seen Rapids play. And I would say if you're giving out mid-season awards, you definitely have to talk about Spash being the most improved team in the conference.
Yep, absolutely. Won more games this season already than they did a year ago. And finally, in the VFA, Hortonville defeated Appleton West 55-6. So Hortonville been struggling offensively, but again, Appleton West struggling overall so far. It was 40-0 at halftime. Levi Strange, the Hortonville runner, it seems like he's been around quite a while. I think you were still coaching. He was out there playing for Hortonville, but he had 16 rushes, 109 yards, and 4 touchdowns. Hortonville is still a team that's going to be, and they're 2-2 now overall, 1-1 in the conference. They're going to be right there. I mean, they're going to be playing important games, trying to work their way into the playoffs. They're again, you have the top 3 teams at 2-0, and then with Hortonville at 1-1, and also Marshfield 1-1. There's going to be some battles, but a expected win for Hortonville against a struggling Terror team.
Yeah, it's my understanding that Appleton West at this point is starting quite a few freshmen at the varsity level, and it's hard to win games that way. It's hard to keep the team heading in the right direction that way too, and
especially in a D1, D2 conference.
Yep, and so these games are going to go that way for them. I think it should be a very nice matchup this week between Appleton West and Wausau East. And that should kind of tell us some things too about how the maybe the bottom half of the conference is going to wind up this year.
Absolutely. Great Northern Conference. Mosinee, 3 wins in a row now, 3-1 overall, 2-0 in the GNC, beat Ashland 42-0. It was 42-0 at halftime, so if you were late, you missed all the action. Gavin Obremski did not have to throw much, 5 of 7, 84 yards, a couple of scores. When he did throw, it was usually to Keegan Jershely. Jershely had 4 catches, 72 yards, and both touchdowns. Wyatt Harris, 9 rushes, 113 yards, and 2 scores. Mosinee, again, it's hard to tell, I think, at this point for Mosinee, because they played that game against Stratford and really were kind of run out of the building in the first half. They've taken care of business since then, but I still think we're still going to wait to see until they face a team, say, like Medford later on, where they stand. But they got kids who have done it before. I mean, Obremski's done it before. Jershely's done it before. What's your take on Mosinee at this point?
I think they're a good football team. I think they have a lot of offensive weapons. Like you said, hard to tell. I mean, the competition in that conference and on their record, other than Stratford week 1, is you play who's on your schedule, but sometimes it's hard to figure out where those other teams are at. But like you said, really good weapons, really good offense. They're going to score a lot of points, and it's going to take a really good defense to stop them.
Rhinelander, undefeated, 4-0, 2-0 in the league. Beat previously undefeated Hayward 13-7. Hayward 3-1, 1-1. Hayward scored first, and then Rhinelander scored the last 2 to earn the win. Landon Bates, 13 rushes, 48 yards. Owen Kurtz, 9 rushes, 23 yards, 2 touchdowns for Rhinelander. Neither team had, I think, 200 yards of total offense. It was defensive. And again, that's a pattern we've seen with a lot of these games, especially for the GNC teams. A lot of struggles offensively. You better have some defense, because you're going to have to lean on that D to win some football games if you're not Mosinee or Medford.
Yeah, and I think the questions remain in these matchups that aren't the Mosinee-Medford matchup is, does this conference have really strong defense, or do they have offenses that maybe aren't quite as loaded as years past?
I think the answer to that question might be one that people don't want to hear, but we're gonna hold off on that answer for at least a couple of more weeks. Antigo got their second win of the season. They're now 2-2 overall, 1-1 in the conference. The War on 64 went to the Red Robins in Merrill, 28-0. Blue Jays still looking for their first win of the season. Alec Napcavage, who has been a solid runner for a couple of years for Antigo, had 119 yards on 14 rushes and 2 TDs for Antigo. I mean, that was, in a sense, maybe an elimination game, because, you look at this league with Mosinee and Medford still on these teams' schedules. Antigo showing a little bit of life, and again, an offense that just right now is struggling for Merrill.
Yeah, I mean, great win for Antigo. Like, from where they were at last year, where they're at now from a numbers standpoint, and they appear to having some success and building off their success from previous weeks. And Merrill, that's it. They're having a real hard time scoring points. And if you're not going to score points with some of those teams who might be considered middle of the pack or lower of the pack in the GNC, it could be a long one going forward.
And the Medford Raiders are now 3-1 overall, 2-0 in the conference. They beat a struggling Lakeland team 50-14. Thunderbirds still looking for their first win of the campaign. 36-6 at halftime in favor of Medford. Paxton Rothmeyer, another one of those rushers for Medford. It seems like every year there's at least one Medford Raider runner that puts up huge numbers, and Paxton Rothmeyer doing it this season for the Raiders. 12 rushes, 252 yards, and 4 touchdowns, 340 yards rushing as a team. Medford, again, there were some, I think, question marks early after their first game against New Richmond, if I remember correctly, but then they went to Onalaska, and since then they look like Medford, like they do pretty much any year in the last half dozen years or so.
Yeah, run the football, play good defense, play really good defense, and I think that's going to serve them well. And I'm sound a little broken record, but as we look forward to that matchup with Mosinee, I think at this point, I would say at this point of the season, Mosinee's probably the favorite to win this conference, and so Medford's taking advantage every week of figuring out what they need to work on to be ready for that game.
Absolutely. We're going to take a break right now. We'll come back a little bit later on, talk about the Merriwood and the Central Wisconsin Conference, and then the 8-player as well, before looking ahead to next week's action. But again, we have a couple of guests coming up here tonight. Carter Amerson, the Wausau West senior, coming up as our student-athlete guest at 7:05. And coming up next, we'll talk to the head football coach of DC Everest, 4-0 Evergreens, going into a massive conference showdown on Friday at Stevens Point. Tim Strehlow, he'll be joining us coming up next. The Big High School Sports Show on Bull Falls Radio, 98.9 and 1230, bullfallsradio.com, mobile devices, and Alexa by searching WXCO, and on the Civic Media app. And welcome back. Big High School Sports Show on Bull Falls Radio, 98.9 and 1230, bullfallsradio.com, mobile devices, and Alexa by searching WXCO, and on the Civic Media app. Again, along with former Wausau West head football coach Jason Foster, I'm Chad Holmes, and our first guest for this evening, the head football coach of the DC Everest Evergreens, 4-0 so far in the season, 2-0 in the Valley Football Association. Very happy to welcome in Coach Tim Strehlow. Coach, if you can get a little closer to the microphone, that'd be great. But first of all, I know we've had you in the past. I don't think you've ever come into the studio, if I'm not mistaken.
No, this is the first time I've been in studio.
That is great. Really appreciate it. It's much better when have a chance to actually see you when we're talking. But I guess to jump right in, 4 wins, no losses so far, 2-0 in the conference. Thriller last week. I imagine it was very exciting at Steam Stadium to pull it off in the final seconds against Marshfield. I guess to kind of have an overview so far this season. What were the expectations coming in? Is your team meeting the expectations at this point in terms of what you've seen on the field? I guess generally, what your thoughts on the first month of the regular season?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I don't know if you ever come into the season thinking that you're going to be 4-0. I think we focus on just one game at a time, right. and really you're focusing on one practice at a time and taking it in stride that way. But you know, our kids have been working super hard, and you know, we've been just taking the steps that we need to take just to be, you know, functioning as a team and working that way. But you know, I'm super proud of where we're at, and I think if like I said, a month ago, I would not have said we're before no, but you know, we'll take it and we'll keep working.
Yeah, and looking at the highlights and the stats from Friday night, it looked like a good old-fashioned Marshfield, DC Everest, WVC battle and matchup. Is that how the game kind of felt?
Yeah, right? Absolutely. I mean, Denny does a nice job for Marshfield. They play great defense, and they always keep you off balance just enough. And you know, it took us a while to get going. You know, kind of. I mean, we had some really nice drives and things happened. There was an injury that took some time away from us, and you know, we lost a little bit after that. But once we got rolling again, I think we did a pretty good job. We had key stops when we needed to. Our special teams play really came through for us. Cohen Preby had a really nice punt at the end of the game to put us down, you know, inside the 10. And then we were able to finish off with the kick and get the field goal to get the win. But, like I said, you got to give credit to Marshfield. They played really well on defense, and they had some really, off from some of our mistakes, they had 2 long passes to tie up the game and do a nice job along that way. But I'm just so proud of our kids for not quitting, and they kept on fighting.
Before we talk about specifics on your squad, just the way that game did go. You had a 14-0 lead, and then all of a sudden, early in the fourth quarter, as you said, it's kind of back-to-back. Very quickly, and all of a sudden, it's 14-14, going through some adversity, as you said, as well. That was probably one of the biggest tests you've seen so far this season, and to be able to pass it, have to show a lot about more than just the physical skills, but also the intestinal fortitude for your guys.
Yeah, and that's what we had talked about all week long. I tried to tell the kids it's going to be a step up. I mean, it's going to be a more physical game. There's going to be some pretty good athletes out there, and the Chippewa game was a good test for us. We got through that one, and then obviously Marshfield was probably a 2-step up as far as athletically and physical game for us. So it's good to see our kids work through adversity and keep on fighting.
Yeah, Marshfield seems to be good at just about everything right now. Their athletes, the time they spend in the weight room, so great win. Talk about the 21 for 33, 320 yards. Was that the game plan coming in? Or what right now, what's your identity on offense? Are you looking to be more balanced? Are you looking to chuck it a little more? Or?
Well, I think we'd for surely like to run the football. But then we had an injury at running back, and that took us a little bit out of our game. No, if you would have said we were coming in to throw for 320 yards, I don't think I would have said that's the case. Right. We haven't had a 300-yard passing quarterback in a while. Maybe Luke Heller or somebody like that a while ago. But for Logan George to step up and throw the way that he did with the accuracy that he had, and I know some of the receivers that I work with, they'll tell you first off right away that we had some drops that we could have been a lot more efficient than what we were. Logan's doing a great job. I'm proud of him and where his leadership is at, and the kids are rallying behind him, and he's such a positive kid for us. I think we're still looking for that identity. We're still looking to see what this offense can do. And as long as we can keep playing good defense, it always keeps us in the game and lets us buy some time to figure out where we are offensively.
Again, we're talking to Tim Strehlow, the head football coach of DC Everest High School, here on the Big High School Sports Show. A little more on your quarterback, Logan George, because when we had Caden Bankston on back earlier in the season, he sounded very confident about his quarterback, because it's always interesting when you do have a new quarterback. I think, you can't, underestimate experience. It's really a big advantage when you have an experienced quarterback back, but he has come in and really done a nice job. But as much as the numbers may be impressive, being a quarterback is so much more than that in terms of being a leader, being somebody that the other guys can feel trust and rally around. It appears, again, from the outside that Logan George is that type of quarterback.
Yeah. Well, first off, he's a super kid. I mean, you're not going to find a better quality person than what Logan George is, and he's definitely earned that job through the offseason. His commitment to the program, and definitely the leadership that he displays to everybody that's on our team. And when I say everybody, I mean all the way down to sophomores and everything. You will see him at our youth camp giving just as much effort to coaching those kids and doing the little things that we've asked for, and he's a total package along that way. So it doesn't surprise me that he's stepping up and doing the things that he's doing on the field, because I see it every single day. Things that you guys don't see off the field and whatever else. So he's top-notch kid, he's got great, really nice GPA, and so he gets it done in the classroom also. So super job all the way around. It's nice to see our quarterback being able to step up that way and lead the program, but also leading in the school and doing things like that, the small things that definitely make a big difference.
Yeah, sounds like a great servant leader. And I kind of piggybacking off of that, when Chad said we had Caden Bankston on earlier in the year, he kind of went on and on in a very positive way about all the things you guys did this off season, from we're going to improve X's and O's, and we all know the evergreens are going to be in the weight room and come out ready to play. But he talked a lot about what you guys did this off season from a leadership and character building, and it wasn't just your senior captain leaders, it was kids from each grade. Can you talk a little bit more about what that looked like and how the impact it's had this season?
Yeah, definitely. We after last season, we got a group of kids together, and it's our it's our leadership council, and it wasn't just, we asked the kids who really wanted to be a part of it. We had them do a little bit of an application piece to say that they had to get on and video themselves and kind of tell us their why and why they wanted to be a part of it and what would they do up and beyond football to lead the program, lead the school, lead the things that we're seeing within our school, seeing within our football program that we really wanted to fix and take care of. We really felt that it wasn't the Xing and Oing. We really felt that it wasn't anything that we were doing on the field. It was more than that. It was being a good person and taking the leadership, the servant leadership stuff, and taking it to the next level. And these kids really bought into it. We have a group of about 30, it's about 25 kids, but then we also have coaches involved in this thing too. And we were really talking about just being a good person and what does that look like, and how do we help out, and how do we reach out to help other kids that maybe aren't as talented, maybe aren't starters for us, but how do we develop them, how do we make them better, and then we've been trying to reach out into our school too, and I think that has a lot to do with where we're at right now. I think we're about as close as I've seen us in a long time. I mean, as far as me being the head football coach, but I think back to some of the special teams when Coach Steffenhagen was here and all that sort of stuff. We were close teams when you win championships. And, I don't know if we're going to win a championship or anything like that. You can't predict any of that stuff. But, it's fun to show up every day at practice. I love the way, and I'll be honest, I can't say that for some of the teams that I've coached before. So I think that, when you can have something like that, you have something special going like that. And if you win, you win. And if you don't, you don't. And I think the kids understand that piece.
And at the end of the day, it's about winning football games. Otherwise, we wouldn't put the time away from our families and to get to that point. But realistically, that's high school athletics, right?
Yeah.
Like, we want them to walk away at the end of it and look back over their shoulder and say, I'm a better person now than I was when I started, and now I'm ready to be a better man, husband, father, employee, student, whatever the case may be. It sounds like you guys are doing some really good things.
We've really focused on ourselves. We don't worry so much about the other team as much anymore. It's really about ourselves and how we can perform better.
Can I piggyback on that a little bit? Because I got the sense, again, when we talked to Caden as well, that when you reached the end of last season, we saw your game against West, your last game of the regular season. That was, it's probably brings back some tough memories, but that was a rough night for you guys. For you as a coach, and maybe your coaching staff as well. And then you backed it up by having a really impressive trip to Hudson when I think nobody thought you were going to take that long trip and give them everything you had and had a really good chance to win. But as a coach and as a leader of the program, after all of that, did you take a step back? Did you think, okay, what are the things that you as a coach and maybe your staff has to do to bring that togetherness and bring back that that Everest community within your football program and the community itself? Was maybe the end of last season one of those moments for you as a coach that you learned something as well?
Yeah, there's no question. I mean, after the Wausau West game, you take that step back and you really reflect and see where you're at, and if you're getting the job done, if you're the right person to lead the program, if all that sort of stuff all comes around. I mean, I know every coach has gone through all that, and I won't lie, I've been through that probably every year that I've coached. So you have to take that step back. We knew that we had to do something different, and we had to try to do something different, and we really thought that this would be the case. We start with a leadership council. We start by doing some things like that, take the pressure off from, just worrying about wins and all that sort of stuff, and just talk about the process, talk about what it's going to take to take that next step, because I just don't know if kids fully understand what it takes to win a championship. I'm not sure if there's parents or anybody that really fully understands what it takes to win a championship. It's a lot of dedication, and it's a lot of hard work and perseverance and all the things that you need to learn for the rest of your life that we're able to talk about, and what happens in big games when you're getting beat, and how are you going to persevere through it? How are you going to work through it? What is that going to look like? And I tried to prepare them as much as we could in a classroom setting, so when we got to the game, we can say things that words or some sort of actions to say, oh yeah, we got to break through this, we got to reset, we got to refocus, whatever you want to call it. And I think you hear our captain saying these words all the time on the sideline, and most people aren't going to know what we're saying because it's something that we internalize. It's a signal or something like that we internalize, and you start to see kids work through it. And we've talked a lot about, guys, it's okay to make mistakes. You're gonna make a mistake. I mean, this last game, I mean, we had 2 long touchdown passes that we gave up. You look at the defensive backs and say, guys, you had good coverage. They had a really nice catch. You're gonna get beat as a defensive back. Get over it. Get over it. You got to play the next play.
Real fast before I let Jason back. And again, we're talking to Tim Strehlow, the DC Everest head football coach here on the big high school sports show on Bull Falls Radio. Something that I mentioned to Caden, and I've seen it whenever I've seen some of the video of your team, there does seem to be an excitement when something good happens. And I really love seeing that. I don't know which of the kids, but a couple of times when you've scored, I've seen one of your linemen come, almost doing a jig coming off the field. And I think that really adds to it as well. They felt like even from the very first game, I was watching your first game. It was on a Thursday night. Obviously, we didn't have a game to broadcast here. Is that something that's a little different? That it's okay to show that little bit of joy and to have that little bit of fun when you're out there?
Yeah, absolutely. The genuine appreciation for our teammates and the success that they have, and for somebody to be able to step up and feel, that whole, that whatever you want to call it, presence or whatever it is, to be happy for them, right? And then when you see that, you know that you're a part of it and that you help them to get there, whatever the situation is. So, we're all about the enjoyment of our team and the success that we have and celebrating with each other.
I think one of the great things about this show is having people like you from high quality programs like that to let the listeners know what goes into it. Like, I think for years and years and years, people took things like being a captain and leadership and being a good teammate for granted, and just, we're going to spend all our time on X's and O's, and those other things just happen. Those other things are skills that need to be taught. The kids just don't come in with those anymore.
Yeah.
Sounds like you guys are doing a great job. So my question, too, we talked about it before you got here when we talked about last week's game. Obviously, you got, in addition to chucking the ball around and having a great night that way, you had to play good defense because Coach Gadel's going to come into the game plan and do lots of different things on offense. So sounds like you played good defense. Talk a little bit about that. But also, can you talk a little bit about special teams? You kind of touched on, we don't talk about that a lot on here, and I don't think the average listener understands what a big part of high school football and how much time you have to spend on that over the course of a week.
Yeah, definitely. So, our special teams play, that's 1/3 of our game, and we spend 1/3 of it every day in practice, practicing all those, situations and all that sort of stuff, and having the presence to make plays when we can make plays. And our punt team really stepped up big, and having Cohen Preby at our punter for the second year makes a big difference, and he's just a playmaker. We want the ball in his hands, making decisions with our punt team. He had a fake punt, and then he had the really nice punt down inside the 5. Actually, is down to like the 1 or the 2 yard line. That's the kind of guy that we want. The ball in his hands, making decisions for us. Does a great job.
Real quickly, who's your coach on special teams? Or do you do it yourself?
All of our coaches have a special teams responsibility.
Oh, okay.
So it's not down to one coach. All of our coaches are hands-on on special teams because I don't want them standing around
right.
talking while special teams are going or whatever. So every single coach has a job for a special team. Within each special team, we all have a kid or two that we're coaching or a spot that we're coaching. So everybody is hands-on for special teams, and we want to make sure that we promote those teams and have appreciation for those guys, because sometimes it's easy for special teams people to kind of look down upon or forgotten about or whatever. So we want to put an emphasis on special teams.
And defensively, real quickly, because as Jason said, you gave up 14 against Marshfield, gave up 7 for the high offense. And then, of course, I think some of the points given up in the other games were after you had it kind of in hand. So for 4 weeks in a row, your defense has been really good. What's been working well on the defensive side?
Well, yeah, first of all, the kids, you got to give all the credit to the kids. They're out there playing every single down. But Matt Kleinschmidt does a great job, and Todd Bohm, and those guys all work together well, and looking at film and setting up game plans and doing a great job with that. And obviously on defense, I'm a little bit more hands-off. I'm more of an offensive guy. But like I said, they work really well together. Their game planning and the things that they do. And like I said, it all comes down to the kids.
Well, I know sometimes coaches don't like using names a whole lot, but who's been stepping up on the defensive side? Because so often when I go through all these numbers, often it's a lot of offensive numbers, and sometimes you forget about the defensive guys. Who's been the big cogs on your defense?
Yeah, well, Kyle Schmidt's up front on our D line. He does a nice job in there all the time. Brendan Peterson's a linebacker for us. Has a really good sense for the ball, nose for the ball, does a nice job. We have Blake Posler in our defensive backfield. He pretty much takes the top receivers all the time. He'll follow them around, and he's our cover guy as a corner. So he's doing a really good job. And like I said, I hate to use names because I know I'm going to forget somebody or whatever, and then somebody's going to get mad at me.
I force it, so blame it on me. So these coaches never want to have the name, but
I'm proud the way that they're working together as a unit, because really it's not about the one guy or anything like that. It's about them guys all playing together, coming together, and making plays and being consistent. And I think that's the huge thing that you've seen so far is the consistency. But this whole thing is, we're 4-0, but we need to keep going. We have a long season left, and we haven't done all that much yet.
Yeah, so I'm going to channel my inner Coach Nowinski here for a second. I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you, you guys have played a really big role, as have other coaches in the area, with the Central Wisconsin camp, and it continues to grow, and it's such a great asset for football in our community. What is the state of football in our area compared to other areas, and what more do we have to do to kind of keep inching forward?
I still think, and I don't want to speak for all the coaches, but I still think that the area football is behind. I think when you look at the Appleton side, they're further advanced than we are with camps. They're further advanced maybe with some specialized training with people that are happening, things that are happening over there. I know they still have a strong presence in youth football, tackle football, which I know a lot of us have gone away from here. I know they have a lot of indoor facilities. So I think our indoor facility might make a step in the right direction. I'm willing to host as many things as we can. And when I talk about area football, I mean, it's not DC Everest, it's not Wausau West, it's not, East and all that. I'm talking all of us together. I really want to develop us as a, Wausau to be a little bit better. I want us to get stronger. I want our conference to get better. I want area teams to get better, and we got to offer more for our kids. And I think we are behind, and the more we can offer for area kids, the better the football is going to be around here, and the more fun the Friday nights are going to be, and the games, and the more people we can get in the stands. I think that's going to be better off for everybody in this area. So I'm super excited. I think we have a great opportunity with the indoor. I can't wait to get that up and going. The Central Wisconsin football camp is a great camp, and we keep on continuing to grow that. I'd love to see us to get up over 300 kids maybe this next summer. And I just challenge all the kids, anybody that's listening right now, if they can sign up for it, and great. We have great coaches there. I mean, we have some of the best coaches in the state of Wisconsin at these camps, and some of the top kids in the state. We've got all-state kids. We've got coming through our camps, and I'm pretty proud of what we do. I can't wait to keep on growing it the next few years.
You talking about exciting Friday nights, and you got one coming up. I mean, you talk about big games where you get the juice going down to Gerke to take on a Stevens Point team that's been playing some really good football the last 3 weeks. What are you looking forward to on Friday against Stevens Point? What has jumped out about Spash, and what are you going to have to do on Friday?
Well, they're very athletic. I mean, you look at the athletes they have on their side. I mean, Marshfield might be a touch more physical, but I would probably say that Spash is going to be more athletic in almost every area. We got to be on top of our game, and that's what I keep telling our kids is we got to focus on us. We got to execute our game plan. We got to do the things that we want to do on defense, and we got to play solid special teams. And if we can just eliminate some of the mistakes, you're never going to get rid of all of them, but at least eliminate some of the mental mistakes and do the things that we can there and control that part of our game, we have a good chance. like to be able to run the football a little better, and if we can run the football a little bit better and be able to play solid defense with special teams, we got a good chance. If we have to throw it, we're going to throw it, but you guys know as well as I do, once we get late in the season and it starts to get a little bit colder and all that sort of stuff, that we can't rely as much on the pass game anymore. We got to be able to run the football and play solid defense.
Yeah, talk a little bit more about the conference in general. I would say that at this point, we'd have to say that Spash is maybe a little bit of a surprise considering where they ended last year. A tough loss to Appleton West in the latter parts of the season. Maybe the most improved team through 4 weeks in the conference. But you guys 4-0, West is 4-0. Marshfield has proven to be a very tough opponent. Like, where do you guys feel, or what does it look
Hortonville's
like?
out there as well.
Hortonville plays great defense and is learning how to score some points. So there's really not a lot of gimmies. So.
No, I think we're pretty actually even throughout the whole conference. It's you still can't count out Marshfield, because they're going to win football games. Yet there's no question about it, and it'll be interesting to see this week for us. And we know that the Wausau West game is always going to be a physical game for us. So we're going to have to keep playing, and we got to like you said, it's pretty even. You never know from week to week where you're at and what's going to happen. So. It'll be interesting the next few weeks.
And I mean, even if you look at a team like Rapids, they're going to bite somebody. I mean, Tony Bigliolo's been around too long, and the way they run that option, it'll bite somebody before it's all said and done. Jason, anything else for Coach?
No, just congratulations on a great start, and I can't wait to see the Spash game on Friday night.
Coach, again, really appreciate you coming by. My hope is, talk about great Friday nights. I hope that you run the table, and then Wes runs the table, and we'll have a nice big one in week 9. Yeah. Set a record at Steam like we did at Tom Field last week. That would be fun, right?
Yes, that would be awesome. Awesome.
I do have one final question. We had an AD's meeting today in Edgar, and Coach Matthews told me you guys have had some uniform issues. Are you still have your uniform issues, or did your starts come in?
We still have uniform issues. We've had the white jerseys the whole season so far. Our green jerseys aren't even made, from what I understand.
So at this point, 4-0, do you keep wearing the whites even if the greens come in?
Yeah, we might have to.
No. I'm gonna step out here. I actually went to Everest in the 80s. So Coach Stefanego was a teacher of mine back in the day. It can't be a choice to wear white at home. You got to wear the green, okay? That's just my point of view. The tradition there, I think that would be a good thing. But no, it's obviously working for you. And man, it's halfway through the season. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, it's not that we don't want to wear green. We don't have the greens.
But it's halfway through the season. I mean, man, you'll get that box coming in sometime in early November, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Hopefully not. Hopefully it'll be through. But again, Coach, thank you for coming by. Good luck against Stevens Point on Friday night, and again, just appreciate you making the trek over.
Thank you very much.
That is Tim Strehlow, the head football coach at DC Everest. We're going to take a timeout, come back with more here on the Big High School Sports Show on Bow Falls Radio 98.9 and 1230. And welcome back. Big High School Sports Show on Bow Falls Radio, 98.9 and 1230, bowfallsradio.com. Mobile devices and Alexa by searching WXCO and on the Civic Media app. With Jason Foster, I'm Chad Holmes. Again, coming up in just about 15 minutes or so, we'll be talking to Carter Amerson, our student-athlete guest for this week from Wausau West. And thanks again to Tim Strehlow, the Evergreen head coach from DC Everest, 4-0, 2-0 in the conference. And it's interesting because, again, that's one thing that's good to have you here, because there are points within a coaching career and with a program, you have to kind of take a step back and say, well, what's working, what's not working, make some adjustments. And I think it's similar to what I heard from you a number of years back, where you basically asked, I think, your guys to take more responsibility within the program. And it sounds like that's what's happening at DC Everest as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And the old saying, you hear it all the time, that good teams are led by coaches, great teams are led by players. And I think we're seeing more and more of that. And I think that's a pretty big piece of the puzzle when we talk about maybe why things are better in the Fox Valley right now, ahead of us a little bit, than they are over here. Is I think that's one of the areas that we're catching up on, and it sounds like it's kind of spreading kind of around the conference. Everybody I talk to seems to have some version of that in place, and I think it's really good stuff for kids.
We'll have more on the Everest game at Stevens Point and the other Week 5 games coming up later, but still have to go over some of the action from last week. The Merrittwood CWC small crossovers. I'm sure the CWC small is very happy these crossovers have come to an end. Again, Merrittwood wins all the crossovers, both last week and the previous week as well. Abbotsford, we talked to Abbotsford's head coach last week and knew it was not going to be an easy one at Iola Scandinavia, but in the end, Abbotsford able to do a nice job, go over to Iola, win 34-12 to stay undefeated. Kristen Fuentes, 15 rushes, 180 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Also had 10 tackles and a forced fumble on defense. JV Castillo, 11 rushes, 143 yards, and 2 scores for Abbotsford. Quarterback Jensen Rice for the Thunderbirds had 20 carries, 99 yards, and 2 touchdowns, and 10 of 19 passing, 79 yards, and an interception. But for Abbotsford, significant win. I think we mentioned it last week that going into a very tough portion of the Merrittwood part of their schedule needed to be 2-0, and they are 2-0. So obviously a big win.
Yeah, when I look at this one, I say good win for Coach, who we had on last week. Yep. He was kind of excited, looking forward to that. I think Iola Scandinavia, like you said, is really looking forward to getting back into their half of the conference and trying to establish themselves as maybe the front runner. And then every time I look at that stat sheet, when I see Fuentes and Castillo both with like low teens rushing attempts and one mid-100 yards and touchdowns, how exciting that must be to game plan every week, knowing that you can hand the ball to 2 guys and get pretty much the exact same high-quality output from both of them.
Absolutely. Auburndale undefeated as well. They faced Oconto Falls. That was they had a forfeit against Wild Rose, so they had a makeup with Oconto Falls, and Auburndale beat Oconto Falls 28-16. Caden Anderson, 11 of 18, 227 yards, 2 touchdowns, plus 33 yards rushing and 2 scores. Nathan Richardson, 3 catches, 157 yards, 2 touchdowns for Auburndale. Oconto Falls, they're 2-0 in their conference because they got they're in the Northwoods Conference, and they got back-to-back forfeits against Menominee Indian and Northern Pines. So they lost their 2 makeup games, but for all intents and purposes, that was almost a glorified scrimmage because they still got their winning conference. But for Auburndale, again, you always like to see where I like to see where these teams have the ability to throw the football. Sometimes in central Wisconsin, we don't see a lot of that, and Auburndale's got that big play potential both with the thrower Anderson and the catcher Richardson.
Yeah, that's what I was going to point out, big plays. You look at the number of completions versus the yards, and there is a lot of big plays. A few weeks ago, when Coach was in talking about Auburndale and the challenges they bring in with their spread offense, like you said, you don't see a lot of it. And at the end of the day, Oconto Falls was probably a good matchup for Auburndale as opposed to playing Wild Rose last week. So maybe a good tune-up for them heading into the Merrittwood this week.
Marathon 3-1 overall, 2-0 in the conference. Beat Assumption 48-7. Truthers 8 rushes, 125 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Also an interception on D. Cooper Huxama 6 of 10 passing, 106 yards, 2 touchdowns for Marathon. Assumption scored on a 64-yard touchdown run by Manny Schultz on the first series, but then Marathon would score 41 points in the first half and cruise to the win. Assumption has got to be feeling a little punch drunk. I mean, they've given up nearly 150 points in the first half alone the last 3 weeks. Another team looking forward to CWC small play, but for Marathon, again, it was not a game where you came in knowing they could just roll the helmets out there. They've lost to Assumption a year ago, but they got the win this time around and put themselves in a pretty good position now.
Yeah, they have a good matchup this week, and now it gets to them where every week is really important to get those wins as they head into that tough competition. And the other thing, it looks like Coach is still rolling with 2 quarterbacks, and it's been pretty successful for him.
And they're using Truthers a little bit as a runner as well, because I talked to him before the game last week, and he was going to start to work him a little bit more as a running back as well to keep him on the field along with Cooper Huxama. So, again, I think Marathon's starting to open it up a little bit, try to use all their weapons. And as a coach, you got to do that, don't you?
Yeah, especially when you don't maybe have a ton of them or at all the different levels and all the different positions. You got to make sure you're putting your best players in the best places to be successful.
Pittsville has been very impressive this season. Man, that offense is just rolling. 60-14 over Pacelli. Pittsville still undefeated. Jacob Hardinger, 4 of 6, 185 yards, 3 touchdowns. Dawson Luther did it on the ground, 7 rushes, 174 yards and 2 scores. Grant Rademan, 8 rushes, 88 yards and a touchdown. Dalton Dar, 10 rushes, 83 yards and a touchdown. 387 yards rushing to go with the nearly 200 yards from Hardinger. Ethan Cowart had 100 yards and a touchdown on the ground for Pacelli. But, boy, this Pittsville team is just every week they're putting up huge offensive numbers. I'm very curious when they get now into these Merriwood matchups if they're going to be able to continue that.
Yeah, it looks like Coach did an incredible job spreading the ball around last week and kind of getting all of his weapons ready for the Merriwood Conference. And Pacelli, kind of the same as the other ones. They're probably very, very happy to look at some sidelines with maybe not as many numbers and not as much depth and maybe look to get some wins.
Edgar beat Roscoe 48-0. Not a lot of big numbers for Edgar, but the thing that jumps out is I think they showed great sportsmanship. Going into this game, you knew Roscoe's been struggling. I mean, when you look at Edgar and Roscoe, you probably think they could have scored as many times as they wanted to just based on the struggles Roscoe has had. That's, again, good for high school football. You don't want to bury a program, and that can happen in some of these games, can it?
Yeah, and you look at, we had Carter Butt on here a few weeks ago, and what an incredible young man he was, and you could tell. So he got 8 rushes for 56 yards, which, I mean, any of us would most certainly, and on any team and any coach we talked to would put Carter Butt in the backfield. But he got 8, he works hard all offseason, and he got 8 touches, and my bet is he was a great leader and a great teammate and loves seeing those other guys get those opportunities.
Colby beats Loyal. Colby still undefeated. 54-20. Gavin Voss, 12 rushes, 243 yards, and 4 touchdowns for Colby. We don't want to spoil it, but, I mean, you got Edgar and Colby coming up, and Colby just keeps doing what they do. Again, they've been just outstanding in that conference since they moved into it, and that old Edgar-Stratford rivalry is now come into a Edgar-Colby rivalry.
Yeah, I really look, when you see these blowout games like this, you see low attempts, high yards, lots of touchdowns. When you look at that Edgar-Colby matchup, I'm looking for these outstanding athletes to maybe have to work a little harder and see what it looks like when they come up against a little more physical competition.
We're coming up on another break here, and then we will have our student-athlete guest, Carter Amerson from Wausau West, after our news update. But we still have the CWC Large and the 8-player recaps to come. We'll do that after our student-athlete interview, and then after that, we will preview week number 5 of the high school football season. So, again, still haven't got through it all. So much to get through. I mean, you never run out of good things to talk about, but one of the great things to do is talk to one of our student athletes, and we're going to do that coming up. Again, Carter Amerson, he's been outstanding as a wide receiver and also as a defensive back so far this season for the Wausau West Warriors. We'll have him coming up after a news update. We have one more hour to go, the second hour of the Big High School Sports Show. Each and every Wednesday night from 6 until 8 p.m. Stick around. More to come here on Bull Falls Radio, 98.9 and 1230. Online at bullfallsradio.com. Mobile devices and Alexa by searching WXCO and on the Civic Media app. And welcome back. It's hour number 2 of the Big High School Sports Show on Bull Falls Radio, 98.9 and 1230. Online at bullfallsradio.com. Mobile devices and Alexa by searching WXCO and on the Civic Media app. And it's time for our weekly student-athlete guest. And this one will be easy for me and Jason Foster because we've seen this guy so often, and we're very happy to welcome into the studio Wausau West wide receiver, defensive back, senior Carter Amerson. Carter, first of all, thank you for coming on over tonight.
No, you're welcome.
Absolutely.
Thanks for inviting.
Oh, it's absolutely. I'm going to start off by talking about last Friday night because it was such a cool night. It really was. A packed house at Tom Field, the entire community on hand for the log game. What was the whole experience like? Because you all your teammates, all the Lumberjacks had not had the opportunity the last 2 years to be involved in a law game and to have the support come out like it did last Friday night. It must have been pretty special.
Yeah, it was pretty special. For me personally, the last time like my classes played, like the East Side, was 8th grade, Horseman. So for that to be the last law game and my senior year, it was pretty special. It was like, it was a really special game, especially with the amount of people that was there, the energy in the crowd.
What I've heard, and obviously I was fortunate enough to play in it when I was in high school and then coach it for many years. One of the things that I experienced and then have continued to observe and experience is crosstown rivalry, big game, lots of excitement. But at the same time, you have some friends over there. Like, I mean, you want to win and you're going to give it to them as much as you can. But at the end of the day, where there's some guys over there that you had some friendly conversations with leading up to it, maybe after the game?
There wasn't really much leading up to it because, like, you want to be in that mindset that you're there to win for the team. But, yeah, definitely after the game, there was some chit-chat amongst friends after the game.
2 interceptions in the game, and we always talk about so much of the offensive numbers, and so far this season, 4 games played, 4 interceptions. We're going to talk about your receiving in a moment, but what's been the key defensively so far? Because you found your way to the football and been able to finish, and I think we talk a lot about, it's one thing to actually be there to make a play. You've been able to finish so many plays. What's been the key so far on the defensive side for you and maybe for your teammates as well?
I mean, it all really starts with the first D-line, all of them getting to the quarterback easy, making them to force passes. And then the secondary we have with Brett there, Marcus, it really makes it easy. And then, I mean, the coaches we have, the trust they have in us to be players, and me playing both sides of the ball can kind of read like what the receiver is going to do and how to sit in the zone just right.
Let me kind of jump on that because that's something I kind of see when I'm up in the booth and watching it, where you just look like you kind of have that wide receiver feel when you're playing a defensive back. And this is the way that you're able to pick up the football and to be able to almost see what the wide receiver is going to do as well. How much does your wide receiver play help you on the defensive side?
I mean, it helps me a decent amount. I mean, there's always, like me, my style of receiver is not the same as everyone else's style of receiver. It also comes during practice when we practice like concepts and what we do. But yeah, I definitely think me playing receiver, like being able to read like when people drop their hips or like accelerate, decelerate, when to break on the ball, how to play the ball in the air. Yeah, I think that all like comes together as one.
Yeah, and obviously you're an incredibly gifted athlete, which plays a huge role in it, and you should be proud of that. But also, like, tell me, like, what over the course of the week, as far as film watching and scout looks and different stuff like that, what role does that play in your ability to kind of maybe read some things pre-snap or by formation or down and distance? So those things play a factor as well?
Yeah, they definitely do. Scout especially. Like film is different because you can see it from like a bird's eye view, but when it's like scout, you really get to see it firsthand and what they're going to do at real speed and it comes at you. Yeah, it really helps a lot.
What about the offensive side? You've been off to another good start catching the football. Had some big plays. Had the big touchdown reception against East, but even before that, you've had some real big nights so far offensively. It's got to be a little frustrating because you're a run-first team. Is because Wausau West have been so effective running the football, not just this year, but a number of years back. But at the same time, it does feel like you're getting a few more opportunities so far this season. How do you feel about on the offensive side of the football?
I mean, I still feel like we're really good effectively both ways. I mean, we have a really good running back, Ray Reinick, second year varsity.
Pretty good.
No, yeah, I mean, yeah, we're starting to throw the ball more, which, I appreciate, but, I mean, we don't really need to fix what's broke or what's not broken, which is Ray, so we can do both.
That said, watching you early this season, it does feel like you do have a confidence with your routes, with your catching ability. I thought it was just a fantastic grab in week 1 over at Superior on the far sideline, where I was talking to you before we came on the air about how you were able to adjust the football. And I think it was against the Pier as well, where you had about 3 yards on your defensive back, and you were able to so subtly slow down, where you didn't stop, where sometimes I think that can throw a receiver off, but you subtly slowed down to grab the ball while still basically in stride and going for a touchdown. As a wide receiver, how do you feel you've developed maybe since last season to this season to maybe take your game up a notch?
I think definitely stronger, being in the weight room all winter and in the summer definitely helped me. But pretty much like watching my film from last year, realizing what I can and can't do to get better. Yeah, I think I've really stepped up. I mean, I've gotten faster. I think my routes have gotten better and crisper and just confidence in catching the ball.
Again, we're talking to Carter Amerson of the Wausau West Warriors here on the Big High School Sports Show. And I'll let Jason, since I had 2 in a row there.
So every time we have somebody on who has found as much success as you have on both the offense and defensive side of the ball, I'm going to ask the question, number one, which do you prefer and why? Yeah, so think about that for a second. And what's the difference in the two positions from week to week about how you prepare during the week and what you have to do mentally, knowing that you have a big play on offense or defense to turn it over or score a touchdown, and now you just shift gears and come right back out on the other side of the ball. How hard of a transition is that, or what goes into it?
All right, I'll answer the second question first because, I mean, the transition to me, I kind of like just go into the zone because like big games or like it's any game, I'm not really like the nervous type. I kind of like use the nerves as like excitement because I get excited for games. Mm-hmm. But I kind of just have that confidence, like I'm not going to let anyone beat me this rep. It's going to be my best rep every rep.
And what about playing two ways? Because we see a lot of that maybe at the smaller school levels, more than the big school levels, where we see a lot of schools basically say, well, you're going to play one way or the other. Wausau West this season has a number of players actually going both ways. But for yourself, is how big of a challenge is it? Is it something that is a challenge? Is it easy for you in terms of, you don't go off the field as often as a lot of other guys do. You have to, go from offense to defense. Is it something that's difficult, and what are the challenges of that?
I mean, I definitely wouldn't say it's easy because I do need my breaks sometimes because I can only go so much. But wait, what was the full question? Sorry.
I was babbling myself there, but just basically, the challenges of it. I mean, in terms of it could be whether preparing for it or within the game itself.
Yeah, challenges. Being able to switch from that offensive mind to that defensive mind just right away, knowing like if a bad thing happened on offense, you got to wipe that really quick so you can be ready for defense, vice versa. So you don't want that just like sitting in your head and stuff. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And from a practice standpoint, does it even maybe at times does it benefit you? Because I know sometimes in high school, at school the size of West, everyone practices offense and defense, but not everybody plays offense and defense on Friday night. So when you're on your non-starting side of the ball, sometimes it's hard to keep your focus. But for you don't really have that option, right? You have to stay engaged from start to finish, and special teams in your return roles.
Yeah, I like to get in any like starting rep or like rep at all just on defense and wide receiver just so I can get my reps in for the week so I'm ready for the game.
We're going to get back to football in a moment, but number one, I know that football's not your only sport. What other sports are you involved in?
I'm really involved in track.
I have heard that you're very good at track as well. What are you involved in? What are your events in track and field?
I like to say sprints and jumping, but last year they had me do the 400 meters and down, and then long and triple jump.
How deep did you get last year in the postseason?
For track?
Yeah. Did you?
We made it to state as a 4x1. Yeah.
What is it? I've never been to the state track and field meet in La Crosse. I've heard it's just an incredible event. They pack Herring Stadium where they play football at UWL. I've heard it's really an incredible experience. How would you describe the experience at state track and field?
It's kind of surreal. Like there's just so many people there. Like the crowd is just full of people from divisions 1 through 3. The competition level there is at its peak, so you have to be on your A game. It's quite an experience.
And this last year, you guys kind of had a wild ride, didn't you? Like, didn't the weather kind of push day one late into the night, and then they had to alter the schedule for day 2? So
yeah, we had the 4x4 running like pitch black out. Like the 4x1 was going, like the timing and lights turned off. So like we just had to like sit out there on the track in the dark, and then it was a wild experience. Yeah.
So when you're not running track and jumping and playing football or in the weight room, what is it that you like to do when you have some downtime or free time?
I like to chill with friends. I mean, honestly, staying social. Yeah.
Do you have a favorite class?
Yeah, I would say Phi-Ed, but
there's nothing wrong with saying Phi-Ed.
But out of all my actual classes, I'd probably pick like GraphCom. I do like to do like the technology stuff.
I will not tell Coach Johnson, I'm sure he's not listening, that you said of my actual classes implying that Phi-Ed is not an actual class.
It's a class, but like it's not like a math or reading or science or like an English class.
I get you. I just wanted to give Coach Johnson a hard time. So,
football and track. Do you have hopes of either or both continuing at the next level?
I mean, I've always wanted to do both, but I know that's an incredibly hard thing to do. But I think I have the capabilities of possibly doing it.
Which are you better at?
I think, personally, I'd say track, you have an easier shot because it's more like individual based. But football, I like more, I'd say. It kind of depends on which season I'm in. I'm kind of biased.
That's one of the interesting things where you're involved in an individual sport, which is part of a team on the track and field side, and then you have when you say real class, true team sport on the football side, where you are out on the field with 10 of your teammates at any given time. How is that different? I mean, in terms of you have your skill set in both. As a member of the team, how is that different during the fall than when you get to the spring when you're participating in an individual event on the track field, on the track, as opposed to maybe a relay as well?
I mean, I kind of view them as the same because even though I'm running to represent myself, I'm still representing West as a team because you still get points for winning events, and you want to get your team the victory of the meet. So and I try to do that every meet I can, just do what I can.
Talking about athletics at the next level, what is it you are interested in going to school for? Like, what do you see further down the road as your career, profession? What's your interest in your choice of major in college?
Choice of major, I kind of want to pursue exercise science, stuff like that. I've taken Health Ox 2, and stuff like that in class. So,
do you have any schools in mind at this point?
Not at the top of my head, no.
Have people from colleges reached out to you? I mean, because that's always interesting to hear whether or not how the old recruiting thing goes about for student athletes, and especially I think for you, because I think in some ways, and I think I've said this to you, that I think people would have to see you in action, because if you just if you pull up the numbers, it says one thing in terms of football, but if you watch you play and when you have the opportunities, I think it's a whole different thing. Have you had people that have reached out to you because they've seen some of your tape or have seen you in person that say, hey, at the next level, you have an opportunity beyond the numbers that you're putting up right now to take that next step?
Yeah, the school that immediately jumps up to me would be Nicholls State University down in Louisiana. For the past 2 years, I've gone to the Manning Passing Academy, and that's when I can actually show my skill set in front of college coaches, college players. And after this year, they showed interest in defensive back for me. When they watch the 7-on-7 games.
Okay.
But otherwise, UWSP, UW Eau Claire, and Oshkosh have all seen track and football, so they've shown interest as well.
And you said you went down to the Manning Passing Academy and do that for football, as a lot of football players do with all the different camps and combines and things like that. But I know you also do a fair amount of extra track stuff as well. Don't you go to some independent meets in the spring and the summer once the season is over?
Yeah, I have my own summer league thing. It's kind of like Badger State, but you can go all over the country for it. It's USATF. So I have in my age group I go and compete.
Well, whether going to say the Manning camp or those independent track meets as well, what have you found out about the level of competition? What kind of talent do you see when you go to the Manning camp? What kind of talent do you see at some of these track meets around the country as well? Is it a huge step up in terms of the type of athletes that you see?
Yeah, there definitely is, because it's not just inside Wisconsin. There's people coming from all over. So there's definitely a huge level of competition step up in the track. When I went down to the Manning Passing Academy, there was some level of competition, but I always have that confidence, I think I can be the best. So then I got invited along with a bunch, 50 other high school kids, I would say, to throw and catch balls from the college quarterbacks. So I'd say I was right up there with all the ones that were invited as well.
Again, we're talking to Carter Amerson, senior from the Wausau West Warriors, here on the Big High School Sports Show on Bull Falls Radio, 98.9 and 1230. Do you ever catch any balls from the Mannings themselves?
No. Peyton and Eli were not throwing. Their arms they were not throwing.
Let's get back to this season on the football field, because obviously last season was an outstanding campaign. Only lost one game of the regular season, then unfortunately ran into the then number 1 ranked team in the state in level 2. What did you find out from last season that maybe you're going to try, you and the teammates that you have that were part of that conference championship winning team and winning a playoff game, which has not happened a lot at Wausau West. What lessons do you take from last season that you're going to try to use this year as you face Marshfield, a team, as you said, you lost to last year, and then especially into the playoffs? Is there anything that you can take from last season?
I mean, the main one that for me and like the people in my class, I mean, this is our last shot. Like, we don't have another shot at high school football, and like that loss against Bayport really meant a lot to all of us. So this is our last shot to do that.
And what, with that loss to Bayport, when you reflect back on the entire season and all the great things that happened, but when obviously we're always looking to take it to the next level, get deeper in the playoffs, continue to compete for conference championships and more, what do you think needed to happen from last year to this year? What were the areas that the players and the coaches identified as things you need to be better at or maybe do a little bit differently in order to win another conference championship and maybe make that run into the playoffs a little bit deeper and maybe all the way?
I'm pretty, I'd say experienced, because a lot of the players from last year were returning starters. So that was like most of our first year's varsity mainly. Focus. We are a tight group. Like, we are really close. So when we can focus in and do what we're doing, we'll click. And I feel like we can have a chance to go really deep in the playoffs this year.
As a receiver, what's it like having two different quarterbacks so far this season? Because number one, you had a new you said you have a lot of experience back, but at the same time, it's never easy. We're talking to Coach Strehlow from Everest before about how, it's a big advantage when you have a quarterback that's had experience. This year for Wausau West, you've had two new quarterbacks because Jack has started twice. JJ has started twice. Jack in games 1 and 4, and then JJ in the 2 in the middle. For you, developing that chemistry with the quarterback, is that difficult? Has it become easy with these two guys? So what's that been like?
I mean, I think it's pretty easy for me personally. I mean, I know both the guys really well. Sure. Me and JJ played. We've been playing since middle school. Me and Jack have just clicked really, really easy like that. So yeah, I mean, I've performed equally the same as good with both of them. I think they can both get the job done. So
far they have, definitely.
That's a great answer, Carter. Nice job with that one. So the log game, which is a lot of hype went around it and went into it, and it was a great experience for everybody. But now that one's in your rearview mirror and you look at some really tough games on your schedule coming forward, beginning this week in Marshfield. When you look back at last year and you coming into this season, what were the games that you kind of had on the schedule that you really were looking forward to this season?
This season, well, the East game for that, I was definitely looking forward to Marshfield because I don't want to lose to them again. Everest, because that's always a big game, and Spash, really. Those late 4 games.
Do you like the long bus rides? I remember last year we went up to the UP for a game because that was supposed to be log night, and I complained to a lot to instead of having a 3-minute drive over to Tom Field, what was a 3.5-hour drive up north, and then we went to Superior in week number 1. Fortunately for you, you're graduating. Yep. Everybody else has to go back up there next year, so that's not good. But how do you like those real long road trips?
I mean, they're not bad. It gets all of us in the bus together so we can just vibe and then get sleep if we need to. But it's just a good moment for us all to be together. And
it's nice when you win them. And you won last year and you won this year. What about Marshfield? You said it's last season, 28-24. A game that I'm sure that if you look back at the film of that one, it's like, you kind of, gur at it quite a bit. But Marshfield, even though they're 1-3, they gave Everest everything they could handle last week, last-second loss. What's jumped out about Marshfield? What do you expect this Friday night?
I mean, I don't really look into their record because they've played really good teams this year. Yeah. So, like New Richmond, I'm pretty sure they played New Richmond, Everest. Was it Hudson they played? Yeah, so those are 3 really good teams. Marshfield's a well-coached team, so we got to be ready for anything.
Yeah, so when you look at the Everest Marshfield game from last week, and I know you guys watched a lot of scout film, and then you come in on Monday and you kind of do some game planning and talk to the coaches, does the receiver, Carter, go to your offensive coordinator and your head coach and say, Coach, did you notice that Everest threw the ball for 320 yards and one of their receivers had 7 receptions for 142 yards, and try to work that into the game plan a little bit, or do you just leave that up to the coaches?
I mean, I leave it up to the coaches. I mean, I still I mention it, we could throw the ball more, but I just do what I can for my team. Obviously, Ray's a crazy running back. Does everything pretty much right for us. But I'll be there when we need to throw the ball if we need to. So
you don't say, boy, that corner looks like, boy, he could be had almost every time.
I mean, I do say that, but.
And finally, we always ask this of our student athlete guests, especially as a senior who's gone through the process.
Mm-hmm.
You've gone through the process, heading towards the, use a track analogy, heading towards the tape here. For those younger players in your program, maybe a freshman or a sophomore that's just beginning their journey as a Wausau West varsity football player, what piece of advice would you give them in terms of something that you found out over these last few years that could be a good advice for them?
Definitely the weight room. I mean, that helped me a lot personally. I mean, just focusing on what you can do to get better for the team, trying not to be as selfish, and like being able to play for the team, not just for the position you want to be at. Just doing anything you can to help the team get as far as they can.
Very good. Jason, anything else for Carter?
Just congratulations on a great start to the year. I would say when people are looking at football in the country right now, they probably look at Colorado and that guy going both ways for the Buffaloes, and then you're probably number 2 when they're talking about that. So congratulations to a great start, and good luck this week against Marshfield.
Carter Amerson, again, thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
Wausau West Warriors senior. Again, Warriors at Marshfield coming up Friday night. You can hear the game live right here on Bull Falls Radio, 98.9 and 1230. We're going to take a timeout, come back with more. It's the Big High School Sports Show on Bull Falls Radio, 98.9 and 1230. And welcome back. Big High School Sports Show on Bull Falls Radio, 98.9 and 1230. Online at bullfallsradio.com. Mobile devices and Alexa by searching WXCO and on the Civic Media app. With Jason Foster, I'm Chad Holmes. I know that you know Carter Amerson exceptionally well, but, again, he's been so impressive the last couple of years, both offensively and especially this year defensively. And it's really great to have him here to talk about it. And you see why, again, he's one of the top performers. I think one of the guys that really is a leader on that football team.
Yeah, definitely. I think I liked what he said about what advice he would give to a younger player in the program. I think when we look at, we talked about it with Coach Strehlow a little bit about like what is it going to take to make football in our area better. And when we used to be in the VFA North and South over there with the Kimberleys, Appleton Norths, Fond du Lacs, and so on, my take on it always was, do they have more players? Probably. Do they have more Division I players? Yep, probably. And do they have more 300-pound linemen? Like, all those things are great, but what makes those teams over there really good is when you have a kid who would just be 155 pounds by not being in the weight room, but by being in the weight room, he now weighs 175, 180. That's who wins high school football games, are those sized kids. And they have more of them than we do. And I think Carter is a great example of a kid who, if he didn't spend the time in the weight room, would be a 155-pound kid. But as a result, I don't know how much Carter weighs. I'm going to assume it's in that upper 160s, low to mid 170s. And that's a huge difference on a high school football field. And the more of those types of athletes that you can have, the more success you're going to have as well.
And one thing, watching him on a week-in, week-out basis that really, again, is very impressive is it's not just the numbers they'll put out, the combine numbers that you see. When you watch him run routes, when you watch him play defense, you see a guy that knows football. It comes across that, boy, I mean, whoever he's across, whether as a wide receiver or as a defensive back, you feel pretty confident that he's, number one, a better football player, but also better prepared.
Yeah, he's kind of the complete package.
Yeah.
When you take that really good natural ability and you build it up in the weight room, and then you put it, you add the football IQ and spend some time with your game planning and film watching, and that's how you end up being a really good two-way player. And it's such a nice fit to be a really good receiver and a really good D-back. I think he made some great points as far as how he's able to transition from one side of the ball to the other.
I don't think I've seen him drop a football either offensively or defensively this year. I mean,
he doesn't drop many in practice or in the summer either.
And that is such a key, as opposed to having 4 interceptions. A lot of those kids would have 1 interception. Absolutely. Or no interceptions, but he finishes plays, and that's been a big factor for Wausau West in their 4-0 start. But we need to finish up what happened last week. CWC Large, I've talked about last week. You had the top 4 teams facing the bottom 4 teams, and for the most part, it really did show up in the results. You had Stratford knock off Manawa 42-0. Stratford now 3-1 overall, 2-0 in the CWC Large. Manawa 1-3 overall, 0-2 in the conference. Started quickly. Jet Shane Herr returned the opening kickoff for a touchdown. It was 28-0 after 1, 42-0 at halftime. Jack Tubbs, very efficient for Stratford. 8 of 9 passing, 129 yards and 3 touchdowns. Gavin Leonard, 4 rushes, 81 yards and a score. Kohler Kilty, you talked about Carter Butt earlier. Now Kohler Kilty used to carrying it about 30 times a night. He had 7 rushes, but still had 144 yards and a touchdown for Stratford. Stratford, again, has been, outside of that Edgar game, playing very good football.
Yeah, kind of gets you thinking how nice it would be to see an Edgar Stratford rematch down the road. And I think the Colby Edgar game will kind of give us a good look to that as well. But really nice balanced effort. Another good example of sportsmanship. 42-0 at halftime, 42 at the end of the game.
Wittenberg-Burnhamwood all over Spencer Columbus. Chargers 4-0 overall, 2-0 in the conference. Beat Spencer 62-0. It was 48-0 at halftime. Nathan Wapekene. Again, I got to get better at that one because he puts up big numbers every week. Wapekene, 7 of 11 passing, 160 yards, 2 touchdowns and a pick, 4 rushes, 130 yards and 2 touchdowns. Marshall Fraser, boy, there've been a lot of Frasers at Wittenberg-Burnhamwood over the years. He had 4 catches, 93 yards and 2 touchdowns, 367 yards rushing, 537 of total offense for Wittenberg-Burnhamwood. And again, they have been dominant all 4 games. And again, we talk about how good are all 4 of those teams. I'm not sure. But when you do it week after week, this year, Wittenberg-Burnhamwood looks very, very strong going into that first major test this week.
And nothing new to them, and I would assume it's no different this year either. I mean, great offensive numbers. Historically, Whitburn has a gregreat offense and defensive line. I would assume it's no different this year.
A guy named Nowinski who likes talking to me when I see him at practice, and got Charlie at Wittenberg-Burnhamwood.
Yep. Definitely relation there. And I think that's a huge part of it. I think that Whitburn-Amherst matchup this week, is it time for maybe Wittenberg to do a little leapfrogging?
I think so. And then Amherst shutout. Again, another shutout, but this time 19-0. So Amherst 2-2 overall, 1-1 in the conference. Shiocton 1-3 overall, 1-1 in the conference. Michael Benjamin, 20 rushes, 130 yards, 2 touchdowns, 6 of 12 passing, just 34 yards and a pick. Aiden Nairdahl, 18 rushes, 79 yards and a touchdown for Amherst. Ty Marks was 11 of 23 for 107 yards for Shiocton. Amherst, it does not look like they're quite at that level. So, and again, that's probably the worst thing in the world if anybody at Wittenberg thinks that going into that game. But Amherst has struggled a little bit, both against Stratford and even here against Shiocton, not really putting up the offensive numbers. Obviously, defensively fine, but Shiocton has struggled offensively generally.
Yeah, I would say that would be my takeaway from this one is Amherst only scoring 19 points in that game. And now that we've said that, they'll rip off 50 against Whitburn this week.
Wyowega Fremont still undefeated, 4-0 overall, 2-0 in the conference. They double up Nakusa 40-20. It was much closer though for much of the night. It was 14-14 at halftime, 21-20 Wyowega Fremont after 3, but then they would score 3 touchdowns in the fourth quarter. Cameron Zilke, again, he has been terrific at the quarterback position for Wyowega. 15 of 22 for 222 yards, added 11 rushes for 113 yards and 2 scores. Braden Arndt had 7 rushes, 97 yards and 2 scores for Wyowega. Nash Tromar had 14 rushes, 103 yards and a score for Nakusa. And Nakusa was able to run the ball well against Wyowega, 246 yards rushing as a team. But Wyowega Fremont is that team that's sort of hanging out there. We talk a lot about Stratford and Wittenberg-Burnhamwood and Amherst, but right now Wyowega Fremont's going to try to knock on that door. They were knocking last season, couldn't really break through into that top 3, but they're going to try again this year.
Yeah, and I think games like this will help them down the road. Kind of a close battle, and you kind of scored 3 big ones late on that. But I think that they're a team that is kind of intriguing to see where in that top 4 where it shakes out at the end of the year.
8-player football last week, Friday night. Newman Catholic got their first win of the season. The Cards beat Wabeno Leona on the road 37-0. Tyler Ackerman, he's had a really good start for the Cardinals at quarterback. He was 12 of 18 for 181 yards and 2 touchdowns, added had 20 rushes for 184 yards and 2 touchdowns, 428 yards of total offense for Newman. They hold Wabeno Leona to 56 yards of total offense. And something I said to the coach when we were talking about those numbers, I was over at practice earlier in the week. And when you look at what Newman lost, again, they lost all their starters. They're a school that with 105, even for 8 players, they are not a big school. And for them to go on the road against a Wabeno team that was a playoff team a year ago and outgain them 428 to 56, I think very impressive. I think, again, people look at Newman, they say, well, they're the team that won the championship 2 years in a row. This is not those teams. I'm impressed with what they did on the road last week.
Yeah, impressive, but at the same time, not surprising.
No.
Like, it was really only a matter of time before Coach righted the ship and got things going the right direction. Looks like Ackerman had a great game, both throwing and running the football, and defense is rolling. So I think they're probably ready to kind of have a nice stretch here and get those wins and then kind of build towards the playoffs.
One team they will face in the conference this week, in fact, a team that's expected to be among the top teams in the conference, Port Edwards. They were 2-0, but they ran into a buzzsaw, 3 Lakes. Three Lakes beat Newman a couple of weeks back. 3 Lakes now 3-0. They rolled Port Edwards 58-7. Jared Kaufman, 8 of 11, 249 yards, 5 touchdowns, 71 rushing yards and 2 scores. Carter Flannery, 19 rushes, 129 yards. Tyler Janikowski, 4 receptions, 177 yards and 2 touchdowns. I'm starting to think 3 Lakes, and I know that from your neck of the woods up north, they look like a team to be reckoned with here in 8-player.
Yeah, for sure. I think that in Port Edwards and Newman playing each other this week, whoever comes out of that one on top is heading in the right direction, and then they need to figure out what they're going to do the next time they play 3 Lakes.
I think, especially for the Cards, I know they would love to have that problem. That means they'll be in the playoffs, and right now everything is pushing towards that direction. Other games in those central northern border crossovers, Almond Bancroft beat Niagara 50-12. Almond Bancroft is a team to keep an eye on. They took Florence to overtime, a highly regarded team, in their only loss. Newman will play Almond Bancroft on the road actually coming up next week, so that'll be one to keep an eye on. And Marion Tigerton shut out Menominee Indian 46-0. The CWC East-West crossovers, I want to mention this because McDonald, another really good win. They had beat Thorpe the week before, and McDonald edges Owen Withy, another highly regarded team, 27-25. And Dawson Moulton, 33 rushes, 303 yards, 3 touchdowns for McDonald. They're setting themselves up as a team that could run the table in the regular season. They got rolled by Newman in the first round of the playoffs last season, so obviously they do have a little bit of experience back, but really to beat Thorpe and then Owen Withy, 2 really good programs. Those were formerly Cloverwood teams, all of those teams, McDonald, Thorpe, and Owen Withy, but very impressive start for McDonald.
Yeah, and 33 rushes, 303 yards, 3 touchdowns. That's a heck of a day, and that's a tough to game plan against.
And it shows an 8-player that there's different ways to skin the cat. You often see with the Cardinals and Newman using the pass game very effectively. You can still run the football. You can still run a lot of power football in 8-player football. Thorpe got back on the winning track, beating New Auburn 54-0. Denzel Sutton, 7 of 11 passing, 248 yards, 2 touchdowns, added 5 rushes for 100 yards and 2 scores. Logan Hansen, 14 rushes, 229 yards and 4 touchdowns. Braden Schultze, 5 catches, 155 yards and a touchdown as well for Thorpe. Put big numbers all around for the Thorpe Cardinals. Athens lost for the first time. They were 2-0, but they fell to Bruce by a score of 48-6. Also, Gilman's put up some massive numbers this season. They beat Cornell 77-0. Alma Center Lincoln over Lake Holcomb 58-12. So that's a look at all the action from last week. So that means we can look ahead. We're going to take a break, talk about some of the best matchups and really good matchups coming up as conference activity really goes into full swing this week. We'll talk about all that coming up as we continue here on the Big High School Sports Show on Bull Falls Radio 98.9 and 1230. It's the Big High School Sports Show on Bull Falls Radio, 98.9 and 1230, bullfallsradio.com, mobile devices, and Alexa by searching WXCO, and on the Civic Media app. With Jason Foster, I'm Chad Holmes. Time to look ahead. Big week. We're hitting the midway point of the high school football season, and a couple of really good matchups in the VFA this week. Perhaps one of the candidates for the game of the week this week will be at Gerke Field in Stevens Point. The DC Everest Evergreens at the Stevens Point Panthers. And again, boy, the winner of this one takes a huge step. Basically, they put themselves in the playoffs. And then you start looking at conference championships, potential home games if you're able to continue. Again, the winner of this one is set up exceptionally well. And then the loser gets put back into the mix where all of a sudden, you start looking a little bit behind you as opposed to looking ahead of you. But for DC Everest, again, the defense has been really good. Got to find a little bit of a running game, obviously, with Caden Bankston being injured. That hurts the Evergreens quite a bit. Stevens Point, high percentage pass game. It's interesting to see whether or not they've gone downfield a little more because you do, as you mentioned earlier, more passing yards than they did last season. There were so many short passes a year ago. But just generally a really intriguing matchup here between these two squads.
Yeah, after the game Friday night, someone's going to come out still being on top and probably one of maybe two clear-cut favorites to win a conference championship, and then the other one's going to be looking to play spoiler and beat one of those other undefeated teams and hope that somebody gets bashed and looking at that or try champion like we've had the last couple of years.
And you want to get enough W's to get into the playoffs as early as possible, don't you? I mean, you think, it's not going to be much of a problem when you start 2-0 in the conference, but at the same time, it's so much better when you get past that and then start looking at different things, right?
Yeah, you can't take anything for granted. Every win is important, whether you're getting close to sealing a playoff berth or just clawing your way into making it there. Every game matters.
Wausau West at Marshfield. Warriors undefeated. Marshfield needing a win. Marshfield 1-1 in the conference, 1-3 overall. Warriors 4-0 overall, 2-0 in the conference. One thing that Wausau West has had a little difficulty so far this season is their two road games. The offense has had a bit of struggle, both in the game up in Superior and also the game at Wisconsin Rapids. The Warrior offense did not play as well as in the two games at Tom Field. I guess there must be something to that whole home cooking thing.
Yeah. And Marshfield's going to throw a lot of things at him early defensively, making that even a greater challenge. I think the best looking game on paper is the Everest Spash, and will tell us a lot more about the conference. I think West comes out of here with a win, and they look to be sitting on top as well as a clear-cut favorite. And then if Marshfield is able to pull one out, I think all bets are off, and we're back into looking at what this looks like down the road.
Yeah, if that happens, then all of a sudden there's only one undefeated left, and there's still plenty of weeks left in the season. And obviously a lot of games. And that's one thing about this Valley Football Association. There are not a lot of games where there's a clear-cut favorite, where you can roll the helmet out there and expect to win. I think right now with the rebuilding at Appleton West, maybe that's the one thing. But, boy, all these other teams, they got something they can hang their hat on, and it's not going to be easy for anybody to run the table in this conference.
No, absolutely. We haven't had an undefeated champion in several years, and I think that's a big part of the reason why is because on any given night, someone can step up and bite the other one. I think Spash is a good example of how improved they are, but we don't forget that last year they took one on the chin to Appleton West, which was definitely the team that most everybody else had the most ease with. So not a huge difference between the top and the bottom. For
the first time this season, the Wausau East Lumberjacks can put on the red jerseys because the first four games, they were the road team. 3 on the road. They played at their home field last Friday, but they were the road team against the Wausau West. And Wausau East gets that first official home game back into varsity football against Appleton West. And Appleton West has struggled, but again, for Wausau East, you got to go out there and you have to execute. I was impressed with some of the big play potential that Wausau East has, but at the same time, and especially for a younger team like Appleton West, you never know when it clicks. I mean, sometimes it could just click at some point for some of these younger players. They're getting reps at the varsity level. But as you said, there's talk that Appleton West has a freshman quarterback. Very difficult in a conference that features Division I and Division II teams.
Yeah, and when you look at the lineup in the VFA this week, I think this game is kind of as intriguing as the rest of them. Yeah. I think this is a good matchup. I had a chance to talk to Coach Kramer a little bit earlier today, and he says they feel confident that they like what they see and where they're going to be able to attack on defense off the edge and maybe give the freshman quarterback some fits, and they find some ways to have some success. But Appleton West is probably looking at this game as being the one on their schedule that they feel that they can maybe pull one out this year. So I think it's going to be a great game. Exciting for Wausau East to get a home game with their band and their cheerleaders and Phil and Tom Field. And
get to sit in the main bleachers this week as opposed to the other bleachers like they did last week. And hearing Coach Kramer is confident, that's a good thing because he was confident when he came on week 1 of the show before their week 1 win. He came across as a very confident person, and he had reason to be with that 23-7 win when he went up to Lakeland. And Hortonville, Wisconsin Rapids. I said it earlier to Coach Strehlow. Rapids is going to bite somebody. I mean, that program is too solid. But they face a pretty good defense against Hortonville. But at the same time, Hortonville, outside their game against Appleton West, has struggled a bit offensively.
Yeah, and Rapids in that offense, we've talked about this each week, they lost their bell cow, and so they're kind of starting from scratch this year. And with that option offense, you get a little bit better each week and a little bit better. And the way they win football games, close football games, because they do have a good defense, is they find a way to pop off a couple of those big passes in their play action when they're running that option. So always a threat. I would probably think that Hortonville's maybe the favorite coming into this one, but it'll be interesting to see the score.
Great Northern Conference. Mosinee takes one of those long northern road trips. Indians 3-1 overall, 2-0 in the conference. Take on another 3-1 team, Hayward. Hayward lost by 6 at Rhinelander last week, but still off to a good start. But again, it was one of those long trips. But at the same time, Mosinee offensively, if Hayward struggled a bit offensively last week against Rhinelander, Mosinee is one of the teams here in this area. You don't usually have to worry about the offense.
Right. I think when you look at the realignment next year, this is probably one of those long trips that Mosinee will not miss as the conference realigns next year.
They'll prefer to go to Tom Field.
There you go.
Medford is at Ashland. Another one. Medford, Mosinee and Medford could go together up north, but Medford at Ashland. Merrill is at Lakeland. Antigo at Rhinelander. I guess the most intriguing of those games, Antigo at Rhinelander, because Antigo 2-2. Rhinelander still undefeated. It's one of those trophy games, the Bell game as well. So, again, Rhinelander, are they for real?
Yeah.
Is Antigo? I think this is one of those games where Antigo looks at, hey, if we can get this one, boy, it puts us in a really good spot to try and make the playoffs.
Yeah, and Antigo comes in off a 28-point performance, which is a big output for them this year. And Rhinelander, while they're 4-0, and I take nothing away from those 4 wins, they haven't blown anybody out. Right. So I think there's still a little bit of a question mark about who they are as well. So a good opportunity for both teams to maybe take a step forward in the GNC.
And, it's a massive game for Merrill and Lakeland. I mean, this, again, 2 teams have struggled offensively. I was talking to somebody involved in the Merrill broadcast. I said maybe the first team that scores wins because it's been that difficult for both these squads. Neither of these teams have scored double-figure points this season. Actually, Lakeland did after they scored 14 last week, but Merrill's only scored 1 touchdown all year long. Big game for both these teams and an opportunity for both these teams.
Yeah, and maybe teams that thought they'd be in a little better place at this point of the season based on how they finished last year.
Yeah,
so
both playoff teams a year ago.
So good opportunity for one of them to get a win and maybe turn their season around a little bit.
I'm going to have to pick it up here. We're running out of time here. There's so much to talk about. I'm going to give you the 3 Merriwood games because they're all great games and can kind of jump on it. Number 1, Edgar at Colby. Massive game. Marathon at Abbotsford. I think it's a massive game for both these teams for playoffs. And then you got Pittsville at Auburndale. Both teams have really built up their programs over the last few years. Boy, 3 really big games in the Merriwood.
Yeah, I look at those. I think 3 big games this week and probably 3 big games moving forward
every week.
Yeah, now that they're in the heart of their schedule. So obviously Edgar Colby, maybe the Super Bowl conference championship possible on the line here, but all 3 will be interesting to see the outcomes.
CWC Large, big one. Whitburn at Amherst. I think that's the big one between 2 teams that always have conference championship aspirations. Also, Nakusa is at Manawa. Spencer Columbus at Wyowega Fremont. And then Saturday, Stratford is hosting Cheyenne. But of those 4, Whitburn at Amherst, the big one. Yeah,
that's going to be great. I think obviously they're kind of whoever wins that one is definitely still in contention for the conference championship. And if Amherst pulls it off, then everyone's chasing Stratford.
And I tell you though, but I'm curious to see if Whitburn continues to rack up the points and yardage. Because, I mean, they have been really putting it up so far this season, been very, very impressive. CWC Small. tomorrow night down at Gerke Field. Pacelli against Rosholt. Assumption at Iola Scandinavia. And then Coleman is at Loyal. Loyal receives a conference forfeit against Wild Rose. But Assumption and Iola Scandinavia, going into the season, those were two schools that were expected to be at the top. It's hard. I don't know. I mean, it's really difficult to say what these teams are because playing those Merriwood teams, it skews things, doesn't it?
Yeah, it didn't go well for any of them. So now is their opportunity to kind of maybe put some distance or kind of start to establish.
At the very least, reset.
Yeah, that's probably a better way of putting that for sure. But yeah, this should be some interesting games. And I also know historically, I haven't seen much on them this year, but historically, Coleman's a pretty tough team. So
yeah. Remember the first time Newman ever made the playoffs, and we went to Coleman for a playoff game, and they've been really good for a lot of years. In fact, even last season they were, again, very good as well. So that's not the easiest pickup for Loyal, but they do know they will be getting their first conference win of the season at the very least. So 8-player. Saturday, Port Edwards at Newman Catholic, a game that we'll have for you right here on Bull Falls Radio. Saturday, 1 p.m. kickoff. Also, Almond Bancroft at Tri-County. Wild Rose at Marion Tigerton. Marion Tigerton already received a conference forfeit. Wild Rose, we talked about, moved from 11-man to 8-man, so they're playing a little 8-player football. But for Newman Catholic, again, Newman against Port. Port is a team that generally has pretty good talent usually. They have usually some pretty good skill players. I'm curious to see Newman. I didn't see him last week in their game. I saw him the first 2 weeks to see if they can make it back-to-back after a good performance last week at Wabeno.
Yeah, another nice test on a Port Edwards team that was kind of thought to be maybe
one of the teams
right towards the top in this one. So be a good opportunity for the Cardinals to hopefully get another win and kind of see where they stack up.
And I guess one other 8-player game I want to kind of mention as well is the Athens-Owen Withee game. That's always been a good battle, and in terms of former Cloverwood Conference teams as well. And McDonough will look to stay undefeated at Bruce, who is 2-1 as well. We got about a little more than a minute to go. Anything jump out again in terms of this week's action, or anything else you want to recap in terms of our guests this week, or anything else to finish things off?
No, just I thought that both guests were really good. I think kind of hearing Coach Strehlow, I mean, everybody knows about DC Everest football, so it's always good to kind of get a temp check on where they've been and where they're at and where they're heading. And obviously, kind of, if you look through all of them, a lot of good games coming up this week, but that's probably the one I'm most looking forward to is that DC Everest Spash game and the outcome of that one.
And also the Edgar Colby game, because that one is always such a massive game between two programs that have been among the best in the state. And, again, last season, Colby actually took it to Edgar in Edgar. Then Colby lost the solo conference championship in the last game of the season when Auburndale came and beat them. So, again, for that conference, that is a huge matchup. Both the teams go, everybody's 2-0 in the conference in the Merriwood, but that's a big one. And also this Marathon Abbotsford game, a game that you can hear on the Sports 2 stream live on Friday night on bullfallsradio.com and also on the Civic Media app and on tape delay after the West game. I'm curious to see if Marathon can continue the momentum, because they had a real rough game against Stanley Boyd earlier in the campaign. This is going to be a test against always a good run team against Abbotsford. So that's one I keep an eye on as well.
Yeah, when you look at how tough the top of that conference is, this game has a lot of implications, both from a conference standpoint as well as a playoff.
Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next week. Jason Foster, Chad Holmes.